Hi Tom, how you doing?
Hello, mate. Very well, very well. What's been going on with you?
I have been, just plugging away, building up to a big holiday. So, yeah, working quite hard. Been in Bristol for a couple of days last week, actually.
It must have been nice down by the water.
Yeah, we were in Wales for the weekend. Wales for the weekend, and then straight to Bristol. Do you know Artist Residence? I stayed at the Artist Residence Hotel.
No,
There's like
no.
three or four. The most awesome hotel for a very reasonable amount of money. Yeah, so many great touches.
Well, I just got back from Switzerland, hiking in the Alps and floating down the River Aire into Bern. Absolutely like spectacular thing to do. It's like picture postcard everywhere you look. It looks unreal when you're in it. It's a really great way to.
Is that like an organized thing? Like, is that like
Well,
a tour or like a?
so no, you can hire a boat, or there's loads of people who got their own boats, but there's just points upriver where you just jump in and it's like 3 hours and you float into Bern. And then in Bern they have a bunch of sort of urban beach like setups with, they've got bars and just big expanse
Mhm.
of, it's like some swimming pools, and the river just sort of flows off into them. So you got to be careful. You got to sort of be a reasonably strong swimmer and like get into the thing, otherwise you're floating off down the river. But no,
Oh my
it's
word.
actually kind of amazing the differences that you experience in a different country, and just in terms of the culture and how that affects hospitality and the way it comes across. So Switzerland, I'd say, is much more grown up than in the
Uh-huh.
UK. So we sort of find it amazing that you're hiring this boat. They give you a little safety briefing. And they're like, right, off you go, jump in the river, and everyone's got loads of beers. You can like buy beers there,
Uh-huh.
and the responsibility is on you to, like, don't be a dick,
Yeah, don't
respect it,
drown. Like,
don't drown, don't. But also, like, yeah, you know, what would be better than floating down the river, 30-degree sunshine, drinking a beer? So go and do it.
there's those boats in London. Have you done one of those boats on the canal?
Yeah, I have
But it's
actually. Yeah,
like,
the go boats. Yeah,
super controlled. Take like one bottle of wine per group, like four beers total, and it's like we are sort of
yeah,
over. I don't know what the word is, like overprotective of like the general public.
yeah. But people talk about, the nanny state and all that sort of stuff, and the general attitude, and you go abroad and you see it, and it is like a culture that exists. I think it's probably a bit chicken and egg, because we did remark, if this was if this was in the UK, it'd probably be carnage. Um, but yeah, no, it
It's
was
not quite as
really nice.
picturesque either.
No, 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 not quite the mountain backdrop. But interestingly, like the Thames, has huge, beautiful stretches of it. And I read recently they're trying to clean up part of it, and they're creating a swimming section.
Hmm.
I think it's further up towards like Kingston kind of way up in Surrey. It'd be amazing if there was more river development, especially in this heat. I guess it's only a couple of months a year. We're in a heat wave, so it feels a bit more acute. There's not actually that many places that I can think of in London where you'd go and drink sort of by the river, that are kind of whole stretches. Whereas
Yeah.
in Bern, in Basel, where we were visiting a friend, you just have these huge stretches with, they're called bavettes, like these little bars that have, tables and chairs out all along the river, and everyone's buying beers from them and then just taking them wherever, and all the glasses get returned, everything gets done properly, no one's stressed
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it. You can take your, no one's saying you can't stand there with your beer, you can't, it's a plastics only. It's like, it's just grown up sort of culture.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, because yeah, that is so nice and relaxed. You experience hospitality in a different way, but it is also very expensive, and I guess a much smaller country, and fewer people, etc., etc. So, but that was
Yeah,
great.
nice. When did you
Had
get
a
back?
wonderful time yesterday. So I was observing obviously the England carnage from afar,
Did you watch
left
the match
by.
in Switzerland?
No, because it was like 3 in the morning when it started, and we were knackered. We'd been hiking and doing, whole-hearty activities. I was chatting to my business partner for the announcement of the licensing changes, and we were really umming and ahhing whether we were going to show it or not. It's been an
Yeah.
interesting one, the World Cup. It's been fantastic at times, but then it just shifts. It's a bit like Christmas, where it shifts all your trading around. So it seems like
Yeah.
you're really busy, but you're taking a similar amount of money just in a very sort of peak time. So the trading
And
is.
in like for this one, annoying time where you're often then open more. You're not doing it all 5 to 7. You're now doing it in a historically quieter time. Probably it's like increases costs, but doesn't really increase sales actually.
Well, it also means as an operator, you need to be quite nimble and savvy about where you're putting your resources, because if a game's at 10 o'clock on a Saturday, most people aren't going to come out, and you're not going to have a normal Saturday. So, ironically, this World Cup might be better for restaurants versus pubs, in the sense that restaurants might trade more normally, and then people go home and maybe watch the game at home, or go to the pub and watch the game afterwards if it's a 10, 11 o'clock kickoff, or like a really early one if people were showing it. Whereas in the past, if it's 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, a lot of restaurants
Yeah,
would
like you
really
lose the whole
suffer.
evening.
Yeah. So, it's been definitely good overall, but then when you're committing more, I mean, we really think about prime profit. So before the licensing, like emergency licensing changes, which I was sort of monitoring whilst floating down a river with a beer, like last minute carnage. And it feels a bit like Starmer is he's on his sort of swan song, trying to make friends with everyone. Be like, yeah, do it. Open all the pubs. He's now talking about a bank holiday, and
Yeah, because I remember seeing an Instagram post you guys did around like I think this was before the licensing change, but like we'll look to stay open if there's demand, and so I'm assuming there was demand.
well, we have two pubs that are quite close. So what we did is we shut one of them. I said we're not going to show it at that one. It's a slightly more foodier venue. But any bookings that were coming in for that, we would then funnel into the other one and try and consolidate everything. And I guess we were thinking about this maybe in the same way that we've thought about boxing matches in the past that are really early in the morning, or NFL, like the Super Bowl, or those set piece events that are a bit niche, but you can trade them really well if you get behind it and do a lot of marketing and then get deposits and book people in. It's harder work, and there's a risk to it, and you might not actually make much profit out of it, but in the end you are sort of winning people over and winning customers over, is the way we
Yeah.
look at it.
Well, I guess you're fulfilling the role of the pub as well, right? Like you're being in the
Yeah.
community for the people that want it, and that's sort of part of your marketing plan, even if you don't make profit or as much profit out of that event.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't think of every single event time slot as just pure, prime profit
Yeah.
opportunity. There's always these other elements to it. So yeah, I mean, look, overall, footy's been good. That was a really challenging one in the end, because the licensing. I think we were erring towards not opening. It was just going to be really challenging with staff and things like that. The details on the ground, and we didn't have enough trade, we felt. And then the booking started coming in, and then the licensing changes got announced, because we thought, okay, we're going to have to do an emergency 10, but we didn't have enough time to do that. So we just sort of said, okay, it's probably not going to work. And then they made the changes, which is, been fun.
Was it a fun vibe by all accounts?
Yeah, so I spoke to the guys the next morning, and I looked at the numbers, and it was like a steady flow, steady trickle. It was a strange one because it was a Sunday going into a Monday, right? Or was it
Yeah.
Monday going to Tuesday?
No,
No, sorry,
Sunday
yeah,
into
it
Monday.
was, yeah. So it was like Monday, early Monday morning. So I think that it wasn't like this crazy explosion of trade, but it was a nice steady trickle, and obviously the people that were there, I guess, appreciated it, had a good time, good atmosphere. And a bit of a fun one, finish up the weekend. So I'm glad the next few games are at 8 o'clock if
Yeah.
England get through. But yeah, no, it's looking
Yeah,
good. It's looking
exactly.
good. So
I actually think probably it is more a marketing, cementing yourselves in that part of London to be like, we are here for all of the key moments, sort of thing. Like, I think that is probably the better thing, which is why it's worth doing, I
yeah,
would
and
guess.
and and now for the upcoming game, the next thing you think about as an operator is do you do bookings? Do you do walk-ins? So we've been packed out and have this constant dance between bookings, and obviously what happens is people book multiple venues. They book for 10, but 6 turn up, or they book for 4 and 10 turn up. And it's a really difficult thing to manage because everyone wants their space. Everyone wants the prime spot in front of the TV. So we've sort of said to everyone, you will get a table. You might not get all the chairs that you want, so you can kind of book a little space rather than a specific table and all the rest of it. But in our other pub, we sit everyone down to do table service, and it's a bit more controlled. So that works for there. And the TAV is a bit more rowdy, and everyone stood up and all that sort of stuff. But we've transitioned now into walk-ins only.
Oh, interesting. So if you want to get in early, you have to get in early and you want to secure your space.
Yeah, it might be frustrating for people who have booked those early rounds and now they can't book. But what we've experienced on the ground is that half the bookings, you've got hosts in 2 rooms working really hard, holding tables, and people are saying, well, why can't I sit down? It's like 5 minutes past kickoff, and you're saying, no, they said they're on their way, and then people don't turn up, and it's a nightmare. So everyone's
Yeah,
losing in that environment, right? The business is losing.
yeah.
The guys in
Eh,
there are getting pissed off, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I remember, I think about it 15, 20 years ago, when bookings didn't really ever happen in pubs, like it wasn't a thing. And if you wanted to watch the football, you'd go to the pub at the time before the match started that you'd want to, in order to secure the table that you thought you wanted, right? Like if you wanted a good table for a big match, you'd go 2 or 3 hours early. You'd spend money in the pub, you'd probably eat in the pub,
Yeah.
and you'd have the whole experience. Whereas the idea now that you just, oh, I'm going to book for 7:45 for an 8 o'clock kickoff, and I'll just turn up and have a couple of pints during the game. Like, it's just not the way it works. It's not really the true spirit of maybe the event.
No, and I think we have seen that change through the tournament, and it always works like this because I think I think England have taken their fans on a tough journey over the last few tournaments. So people get really excited towards the end, and then you build this wave of momentum. You've got to work harder. For us anyway, we're not a sports pub really.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of prove that it's going to be a good environment to the guests, and maybe book a lot of it, walk that sort of tightrope to begin with, and then it sort of maximizes, but you create the atmosphere and offer a bit of walk-in space if people are just turning up, and then now I think we've sort of earned the right almost, or there's enough momentum that we can say, you know what, guys, it like walk-in only. Honestly, it makes it so much easier for us because we're not disappointing people holding tables, having to manage that. You can stick another person behind the bars where everyone can get a drink quicker, and you don't have to have someone hosting, and it's just get in there and fill your boots. It's got a very simple change that makes it easier for everyone to understand, better for the business,
Yeah.
and probably a better atmosphere overall because it will be busier earlier. That's the thinking.
Yeah.
You might
Well, it'll
upset
be
some
interesting. We'll
guests,
talk
but
about it in. Let's talk about it in 2 weeks, and we'll see how you've
yeah.
had it. You mentioned that like it feels like there's been a bit of a political shift, especially from Mr. Starmer, around some of the activities around the hospitality sector. To me, it feels maybe a bit like, I don't know, like signposting more than anything. It's a few things. You've got your bank holiday being touted. You've got the stuff for last weekend with the licensing. Is it just good stories rather than real impact?
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on, isn't there? As a student of politics back in the day, I've been fascinated by this sort of bloodless coup situation with Labour. It's been such a strange bit of politics. You could argue really well managed by the Labour Party versus the chaos of the Tory sort of changing in leadership and all of that before. And kind of Starmer's done the honourable right thing for the party. But equally, it's really odd the way it sort of happened. And like Burnham he's not an unknown, of course, but he's been out of Westminster for a while, which is probably to his credit and benefit right now. Obviously, done a good job in Manchester by all accounts. He's got this Manchesterism brand, which we should probably maybe we talked about doing a little bit on Manchester, so that'd be a good thing to do later.
Yeah.
And hospitality has been a real central part of his platform there, and a big part of Manchester growing and feeling like a vibrant place. So I think he understands what we've all been saying, a lot more than some other politicians, that hospitality is how you can help youth unemployment, regenerate high streets, create feel good policies that help it, that kind of help create a closer sense of community in places, and all these things, right? And also drive the economy on quite a broad, deep, big scale. And so there's some really exciting things that are coming down. And then in the short term, Starmer sort of announcing a resignation, it seems like he's like, right, let's just announce loads of good stuff. Like, let's have a good time. It's the World Cup. England are doing
I guess
well.
it feels a bit like is it like a departing US president where they start pardoning loads of people?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, he's not here for the consequences and really just wants to do some bits. Like,
yeah, I mean, not to get too deep into politics, but obviously he announced this massive, spending review of the defence budget with a 5 billion extra. That was, here, have a Cadillac. Have
Yeah.
5 billion. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. So yeah, that's been interesting to observe, and I guess everyone's waiting with bated breath to see if there's a substantial change in attitude and policy that comes in once Burnham is in number 10, assuming that everything plays out like it seems to be. Because I think everyone in hospitality is like positive about it, but we'll believe it when we see it. Being burnt too many times on this, that, and the other. And I think the messaging that's coming out and the things that happen around the World Cup, and also the kids' VAT stuff, they are like crumbs from the table, and they are yet more kind of slightly offbeat things that maximise the positivity of the soundbite for the politician.
Yeah.
But really, in terms of the impact on hospitality, are really minimal. Sometimes annoying, like distracting,
Yeah.
and not thought through deep kind of problem
Yeah.
solving policy. So the last minute licensing change, that was welcome, positive. It made it easier to trade, but realistically, it was a bit of a last minute
Yeah.
issue.
But surely it's the exact same for the idea of a bank holiday, like if England win the World Cup. What actual benefit, other than a
So,
small number of operators will make more money on that day,
so,
but
so
a
I,
load will also not? And again, I know you sit in the pub sector, but the thing that frustrates me is people talk about hospitality sometimes like it is pubs.
yeah, but I think each part of it talks about it like it's just one thing, you know.
Yeah.
So different sections of the trade press just talk about
Yes.
one aspect of it. And the part of the problem why we've had this, you know, really a lack of focus, I think, in across the industry for to getting policy change is that, you know, the lobbying and the links at a high level are tied up with the big companies, and so they're kind of vested interest stuff. But there is such a diversity. It's a massive industry, really diverse.
Yeah.
Leisure,
You do a bank
hotels,
holiday,
cafes, bars, pubs, restaurants.
largely like QSR, coffee, bakery, casual dining will have largely a terrible Monday
Absolutely. All it does is shift all the trade around.
around.
We'll probably do well out of it. So, you know, I'm not too upset about it. But what did frustrate me was I read this article, and the headline was this sort of gushing praise for it from it's Emma McClarkin or Larkin, the head of the BIAB, I think. And she said, "Oh, it'll be a dream come true for publicans." And, you think, you know, that's such a. I just don't think that's helpful to have that sort of attitude or those sound bites. It's not a dream come true to have an extra bank
No.
holiday last
Like,
minute potentially thrown in. It's
yeah.
a bit of a fucking nightmare operationally, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll probably do all right because we sort of, you know, we're not going to go crazy, but we'll probably trade a bit better. But the next day will just be weaker, so it just shifts the trade around a bit. Overall, we might be up a bit, but if we don't know it's happening now, and we have to sort of you plan for it, you've got to suddenly change your staffing, plan two rotors. Or anyway, like it's not the end of the world. But there's massive chunks of the industry, like you say, who won't benefit from that,
Yeah.
and it'll be just a challenge.
It does feel like ultimately it's done because of things like that public pressure. People really want a bank holiday. They want some good news, but also so that there are 3 or 4 or 5 sound bites now for what we're doing for the sector. And, you know, they'll now be able to have 5 things that they've done this year that benefit the sector.
Yeah.
And actually, there's no long-term benefit. Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah, nothing of substance, nothing that thinks more long term and resolves some of the long term structural problems. And I guess in the background, there is this potential that we now have a new PM who has openly said he wants to have 10% VAT in hospitality. So he's backing, you know, the campaign. That's the problem that Kerridge has been the face of. But, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I've had tons of emails in my inbox from
Mm-hmm.
companies getting behind it or across the industry, suppliers
Like
and different
suppliers
things.
and everything like that.
Yeah, and so that campaign has done really well to sort of gather momentum, focus the one idea, and I mean it's amazing. We've been talking about this for 5 years since COVID, really, and it's amazing it's got to this point to do that and focus it. And then you have the representative bodies that have the ear of government and are lobbying and all the rest of it. You know, it's frustrating the platitudes that they give these, like I say, like crumbs from the table. Now, I'll caveat that with I'm sure they understand how to manage the egos and the people and do the lobbying. Because if you look at the makeup of the people who are in UK hospitality, for example, they're basically all politicians and comms people. All of their senior team and the board and they're not hospitality people really. There's a few of them have done a bit, and I'm sure they've got people who consult and people who give them advice, and they are finger on the pulse of the industry. I hope.
But they're also like self-interested without like
Well,
we're all self-interested
they're all
by design.
politicians,
Like,
and they're politicians. They're people who have got comms background, or they've been in parliament, or they've been in policy roles. And I think they work at a macro scale a lot of the time, which they have to. And I just think sometimes they think, well, maybe it's better to be positive about something. You know, listen, well, thanks, sir. Thanks for the crumbs you're giving me, rather than be more robust and saying, well, that's not really great. It doesn't really make a difference. It's probably going to be
mm,
painful for half a sector. It will help these guys over here. I should probably shut up about it because I'll sort of benefit from a
yeah,
bank holiday. But if that then means that the conversation about changing VAT or really amending rates to a point where it's
yeah. If
really
that now
helpful.
doesn't happen because it's like, oh, we've done this stuff, so we can
Yeah.
ignore this stuff now for a bit, it's just pointless. And I guess that ultimately like you've already said, the problems are no one is thinking long term enough, and
Yep.
everybody has some level of self-interest in the conversation, which will inevitably change the dynamic.
Yeah, I do think that this is stuff has got to be paid for. So it's all well and good to talk about hospitality being this positive industry, all these, positive things that, I mean, pubs get focused on for that because it's community stuff, lots of chat about loneliness and social isolation, and pubs really help with that. But loads of hospitality overall helps with all of that stuff. But I just think more than that, hospitality creates thriving public spaces and just a good, a nice places to be. And when you go away and you go to another country, what do? You eat, you drink, you sit out, you enjoy it, and you get a sense of the country from basically the hospitality that you receive. And I think accepting that investing in hospitality as a sector is doing it maybe to the detriment of some other things in the country or other industries. You're just going to have that sort of grown-up conversation. I mean, I saw some numbers floating around. There's an article, I can't remember where it was, so I'll try and find that and reference it maybe next week, that was saying it would cost between 10 and 14 billion or something to do a 10% VAT cut, which is significant, and you've got to cost that and find that from somewhere.
Where does that sit in context?
I mean, exactly. I don't know. And I think that potentially is something that's not being talked about enough. So we just say, fix the VAT, and there isn't part of the conversation which says, well, this is what it would cost, this is what it would mean, these are the policy options potentially. Yeah. Obviously, it's very hard unless you're economist or really interested in that stuff and kind of looking at it. You get numbers thrown around that are the sort of the national budgets for stuff, and it's just this huge numbers that you don't really know how they fit into the overall.
But I guess I don't have a good sense of, is 12 billion a significant percentage that they'd have to find, or is actually that 10 billion actually a drop in the ocean, and so it's like making another tweak over here. I don't know, but I assume it's like non-insignificant but not significant.
No, I think it's significant, especially when it's for something that has talked about to be like, oh, well, you're just helping pubs, you're helping people go out and get pissed. Because that is always the headline that you see in god-awful high street somewhere, with some hammered people. There's probably a stock photo from years ago, drinking, being loutish and drinking out the street.
Yeah.
And so it's being marketed as you're basically helping the country go and have a large one.
Yeah, it works both ways, because they talk about hospitality almost by using the word pubs, like that's sort of like the colloquial term, but it works the opposite way, because you're being like, we're going to help pubs, meaning hospitality, but then people's view on it is, oh yeah, but it's just people going out and getting pissed. And actually, we're helping this whole sector that basically supports all human activity outside the house. Like, we're helping people be out, spend money, drive the economy, be in spaces, and get out and ultimately probably move more, interact with other humans, spend money in the economy. But then it gets a bad name because it's like, oh yeah, people are going out and getting pissed, and so they use the word pubs instead of the entire cross section of the industry. I think we should move on. We are into our last couple of minutes. I've got a couple of guests coming up in a few weeks. What are you up to the rest of this week?
We have a load of things in the background, obviously standard operational stuff. We're redoing menus. We're looking at a marketing plan post World Cup. We're thinking about Oktoberfest stuff in September. We're going to launch a little wine tasting club, so I'm working on that in the background. We're desperately trying to get hold of some rosé because our suppliers are running out because everyone's tanking the rosé in the weather. And we're just trying to make sure all of our kits doesn't break down in this heat.
Yeah.
So, all of that good stuff. Yeah, it's kind of World Cup at the moment. As soon as England are out, everything shifts. But if they do make it to the final, it's a nice run of games for pubs, particularly. So it's just about getting that organised. That's kind of it, really. Trading hard through the rest of summer.
I'll see you tomorrow down in King's Cross, heading off for lunch with our previous podcast guest, John Nugent.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. It looks like a great event. It's going to be nice being by the water in one of the parts of London. You can go and have a nice drink down by the river.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. We've come full circle. That's nice, isn't it? Right, Tom, I'll see you tomorrow, 12:30.
Lovely stuff. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.